guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for One Piece episode 938. Now, this episode is very interesting because, or at least a good chunk of it is, because in many respects, even though it was, even though it was building up this huge reveal of who Tonoyasu was, it never actually revealed who he is. Yet at the same time, just from the way it was being built up and the way this episode was structured around like keeping the mystique of who Tonoyasu was, there's pretty much still a lot we can infer about who Tonoyasu is, even though the actual reveal itself hasn't happened. And largely, I think the major thing we can infer about Tonoyasu's true identity is that just from seeing the reactions of people, is that he's very much a long. I think we can more or less safely say he's a long time like retainer of the Kozuki clan. And that's one of those details that just brings everything about Tonoyasu as a character full circle. I mean, obviously, a lot of what he has done up to this point was because he was a genuinely nice person. But with this being very much the case, with this like very much more than likely being the case now, it adds that extra layer to his actions and how even if he was powerless to oppose Kaido and Orochi, he still wanted to do everything and anything within his limited power in order to preserve the legacy of the Kozuki clan. Even he wanted to do everything he could to preserve the legacy of the Kozuki clan. Well, in an era where the Kozuki clan were largely, well, despised and hated and whatnot. And that in itself also shows that pretty much the hatred towards the Kozuki clan, it's another one of those things of perspective and how one side of the perspective isn't the full story. There's a lot more going on with what happened with the Kozuki clan being marred as traitors and whatnot than what we've been shown. Much more. And just from the preview, we can definitely see that it's going to be the case for sure. And if I have now, I guess if now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, the episode itself, they definitely use the whole build up to its advantage. But at the same time, if I did have to, same time, it's also one of those where it is still a bit of a pacing problem in the sense of how they did spend so much time like pretty much building to pretty much that moment of his execution. But I can't understand why Toei did it, because they wanted to say what happens next for an entire episode. And trust me, the entire episode, the entire next episode, is where shit is going to fly. Like, shit is going to fly so far out the window. And all I can say is poor Toko. Like, you can see that obviously she's smiling, but in reality, like, from hearing that her father's going to be executed, she is suffering on the inside. And it was in that moment of her rushing helplessly to rescue her father that I also remembered we're headed full force next week into the moment of the series that made me have a full-on, unfiltered rage moment. Like, we're basically headed to a moment in the manga where we're headed for a moment in the anime where when I first read this content in the manga, like anyone who read my chapter review of it will know, I was fucking mad. I was fucking raging at the type of villain after the reveal of what happens after next week's reveal. Like, it was a moment where I just couldn't believe that someone this despicable like Orochi existed. Like I raged at him for pretty much the majority of that review. Um, and just the type of villain just the type of antagonist that Orochi was. And and honestly, in terms of next week's episode, I think I still am very much going to have a rage moment at the type of at the type of person that Orochi is, and the type of person that he's going to be revealed to be. But I think with basically the knowledge I have of the manga now, I think I'm gonna have a slightly different perspective as well. Like I'm still gonna be raging at him, but it's gonna be a little more tempered, a little more even tempered, and just a little bit and a little bit more understanding of just a little bit more just kind of different perspective on what I feel about Orochi as a villain. Let's put it that way. Um, this episode also did very good on lifting the veil even further on a lot of small but key plot points going forward. For instance, the very beginning when it's revealed that revealed to Orochi of basically of Tonoyasu's identity and just him being alive, whoever he's supposed to be. There's a moment where we see Kyoshiro giving Orochi a congratulations, but then we get a close up of him clenching his hand into a fist, pretty much showing the mask is coming off, the mask of who actually is coming off even more, and revealing who Kyoshiro really is, which at this point I don't think it's too much of a spoiler for me to say that really at this point the only person that Kyoshiro can be is Denjiro. That's the only person he can be at this point, especially now with how many things keep going on, keep going so severely wrong for the Alliance, and especially now that Shutenmaru and his men have been pretty much smoked out of their own hideout by Hold'em and his men. Like there's everything is just going so wrong that the only one who can save them now is Denjiro, because cause the other thing is that whole sequence illustrated how how out of control things have gotten, and they really need to act now, and they really need to act well now, because things might because on the Shutenmaru front, things might not have gone exactly how Kinemon wanted. It is still kind of forcing them to basically join together now, like, and it is kind of a thing where it is a thing where again they I think there's going to be a little bit of an argument still, but I think Shutenmaru at this point is going to begrudgingly having joined the Alliance. Like he realizes that yeah, they've gone too far to control, even though like again the whole situation in itself was manufactured by Kinemon and Ino Arashi. Um, Now, I guess if I did have one major complaint about this episode, I'd say this is one of those times where the art and animation is largely hit and miss. I mean, there are a lot of bright spots throughout, and it's not a total like wash or complete failure that like obviously Dragon Ball Super's earlier episodes are a bigger wash and failure than this, but it's it's one of those episodes where there's a lot of bright spots, but for as many bright spots as there are just as many moments in this episode that art and animation wise just fall a little flat, and it's one of those times where on a first viewing you're not probably gonna notice it too much, but after more than a couple like after more than a couple watch throughs of the episode, I think it is going to be one of those where the problems are going to show, where the art and animation issues might show a little more and more. But again, based on the fact that they're saving Tonoyasu's big moment for the next episode, it's something I can easily forgive because it's clear that they want a lot more of the effort to go into next week's episode than this one. Like this episode was basically just what's basically pretty much one gigantic build up for what's going to happen next episode. Which, again, I don't think I'm spoiling too much by saying it's going to be fucking nuts. So yeah. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Crunchyroll. Dead Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.